My name is Yash Kundula. I'm a solution engineer at Esri, who all of you will be hearing about, and you'll be assigned these applications sooner. So before we get started today, I wanted to take a step back and talk a little bit about the background of where we're coming from and give you guys a little bit more context to who we are and what we do. And once I give you guys that context, we'll go ahead and jump into the system you all will be using and having access to for your UN Datathon. Also, just a quick thumbs up. Can you guys see me? Because my screen just froze.
We can see you and hear you.
Okay, let me just, 1 second, hop back in. Perfect. So a quick overview and introduction to ArcGIS overview for those of you who don't know who Esri is or what ArcGIS is. I wanted to set the tone and talk a little bit about first who we are. So very briefly, Esri is a GIS technologies company headquartered in Southern California. We were founded in 1969 and have gone through many evolutions of technology. Our mission has always been to advance the science of GIS, increase spatial literacy, and empower organizations to harness the geographic approach to solve the world's most complex challenges, just like many of you guys will be doing throughout your Datathon. But before we jump into our ArcGIS system, I want to take a quick step back and provide a quick refresher on what GIS is. So here's our world, and geographic information systems, also known as GIS, is how we can create, analyze, and share location data information like models or imagery of the environment, boundaries and areas of interest, observations, sites, project information, people, demographics, ideas. And by understanding what is happening where, we can ask and answer important questions. We can identify patterns, find relationships, locate optimal sites, and even make predictions. So with GIS, you can fully harness the power of geography to make informed decisions. And Esri builds ArcGIS, a powerful mapping and spatial analytics software. ArcGIS is a comprehensive platform. It's an integrated set of products that provides greater insight through visualization and analysis of location-based data. The information managed in ArcGIS promotes collaboration and can be shared via maps, apps, dashboards, and reports. But how does it work? So for the purpose of this presentation, I'll be talking about ArcGIS Online, our software as a service offering that can be accessed via a web browser, which all of you will have access to soon. First, ArcGIS Online allows you to create and securely organize and manage geographic information. So this way, data is stored and hosted in the cloud, managed by Esri. With ArcGIS Online, you're able to leverage ready-to-use data from multiple authoritative resources, such as the Living Atlas of the World, Esri's curated collection of authoritative data, maps, and apps to support your work. It also allows you to use that authoritative content and your own content to build engaging and interactive information products, again, like maps, dashboards, hubs, and so on. So by leveraging your WebGIS system, you're able to collaborate and share information with your stakeholders, whether it's internal or external. And so bringing it all back together, ArcGIS Online, since it's web-based and hosted by Esri, the technology is scalable and automatically adjusts to meet your demand without the need for you to manage the resource and the backend system. So now that I've gone through an introduction and a background overview of what ArcGIS is and who Esri is, how do we actually access it? So how each of you will be accessing ArcGIS Online, the system itself, is by logging into ArcGIS Online with your own named username and password. So all of you will have access to this platform by the end of this week, so keep your eyes out for that. So you'll land on this year's organization page, which is Global Community Engagement Hub. So that's where you'll be doing all your Datathon work. So when you hop on here, you're going to go ahead and click sign in. And that's where you'll, again, use those, individual username and password. So once you sign in, you'll then have access to the app launcher, which will be up at the right hand next to your username. So the app launcher, also known as a waffle because it looks like a tiny waffle, this is where you'll have access to all the different applications that will be imported into and integral for your analysis and your work that you do. So now that we have access to ArcGIS Online, one thing that I wanted to point all of you to is being able to access this year's group. So some of this information I'll cover a little bit more as I demo some of the other things for you guys to keep in mind. But in groups, these are some recommended data sets for you to utilize. So when you open this and all of you will have access to this group, so all across the organization, you see some readily available maps that you can open up and do analysis on or pair up with your own data you're going to be bringing in. So this is some of the content that's suggested for you to use, so definitely take a look at this. So this is just suggested content, but let's say you want to bring in your own data. How do you do that? So I'm going to go ahead and hop into content, which is where you'll be able to see all the data and all the content you publish. So anytime you publish it and you want to go back and reference it, this is where you'll do it. So in terms of bringing in other open source data back into ArcGIS Online, for example, let's take a look at this GeoMedallion website. So this is a website that each of you will be given access to as a link, and also make sure to drop it or follow it up after this Datathon office hour as well. So in this, you see some latest open data resources that you can download to your local computer. So let's take a look at multidimensional poverty index. So once you click on that, we're going to go in to learn more. And it's going to take a second to load, but from here, you're able to download this data as a shapefile, CSV, and other formats. So something that I recommend you to do, since this is coming as polygon layers, is to download it as a shapefile. So once you download it, it's going to go to the download tab, and it's also going to show up in your local computer. So then you'll go back to content, and where you actually add that data is by clicking on new item. So you can reference it to your local device by clicking on that and finding that recently downloaded file. Or another thing that I suggest you do is as it's downloading, you can drag and drop this, and then you'll be giving it a name. So this is multidimensional poverty layer. So I'm going to give it a name. Let's hope I spell multidimensional correctly. And then I'm going to give it the number 2 because I already published this. Oh, and let me shorten this name. So once you save that, it'll go ahead and publish it to ArcGIS Online. And from there on, once it's published, you'll be able to access it within your content. So now that I publish it, I will be then able to open it into ArcGIS Map Viewer, which is one of our applications that that you'll have access to, which allows you to take that data and further edit and analyze it. So I'm going to go ahead and launch it in Map Viewer, and this is where we'll land, which is the data that we just downloaded and brought it over into ArcGIS Online. So from here, we see the data as polygons that we just downloaded. So from here, we can further edit the symbology and do analysis on top of that. So how you do or how you change the symbology is on your right side. You'll see all these different tools available to you. So from the top, we see properties, styles, filter, all the way down to analysis. Today, we're going to focus on styles. So as we can see, all the different polygon layers that we have here are a single orange color. Well, let's say I want to further filter it. I can click on field and we see the different poverty indexes from 2014 all the way to 2023, which is when this was last updated. So I'm going to click on 2023. And from there, I can now see the poverty index as different shades of blue, which is showing us high to low. So we can see where there were areas of higher poverty index and areas of lower poverty index based off of the map. And with the data that we brought in, we can also open the table to give us more context. So if you want to look at the different areas and see how the poverty index has changed by looking at the tables and looking at the numbers, we can also do that. So again, we talked a little bit about how to bring in your data and how to change the symbology. But let's say you want to utilize other data available to you within ArcGIS Online. We can click on Add Data. So we're going to click on Browse Layers, and we're going to go into Living Atlas. So once again, the Living Atlas is the world's largest collection of analysis-ready geographic data. And what's really amazing about this is that it's very useful to pair up with your data that you're bringing in. So you not only do you have access to your data, but you also have access to the millions of layers that exist within Living Atlas. And it's coming from anything from authoritative data, such as NASA, NOAA, as well as other government organizations, as well as more local data. So far we've been looking at polygon layers, but let's say we want to look at, for example, hotels in Colombia. So I'm going to search for hoteles, and we can see that now I can look at Colombia hotels, and I'm going to add this to my layer. So once again, this is coming from the Living Atlas. So now we're able to not only just bring in one set of data, such as polygon layers in here, but we can also pair it with point data as well. So from here, we can go and do some analysis to some of the data we're bringing in. So within analysis tools, we have various tools that you can choose from. I opened this up last time, so let me go back real quick. So you have different tools associated with different analysis you're trying to accomplish. So you can look at summarized data, find locations, enrich data, and so on and so forth. But today, let's say we want to understand how many different hotels are within each of these regions in Colombia. I'm going to click on aggregate points. So it'll give us a count number. So instead of looking at it and zooming in and counting to see how many hotels are in this area, I can use my analysis tools to do that for me. So it saves us less time of manual work. So I'm going to bring in my Colombia hotels, and I'm going to click on the original multidimensional poverty layer we brought in. And I'm going to give it a name of analysis. And again, you can give it your own names based on the steps you're doing. But for this case, I'm just going to give it that name. So it's going to take a few seconds to run, but in this case, I already did it for us ahead of time. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on that layer. So now we can see the central layers where there's a lot of hotels located in these regions highlighted in the purple shade. And once again, I can open my table and I can see all the way to the right. Once I scroll through, I can see how many counted points, which are the hotels located in each of these regions. So we can go and see that some areas have 180 hotels versus others have 0, 6, or 1. So again, that's just one example of how you can bring in your own data, utilize Living Atlas's data, do analysis, and change symbology. So how about when it comes to actually sharing this data? So this is ArcGIS Story Maps. This is an interactive way to share data from ArcGIS Online as well as other mapping data and tell it in an interactive storytelling format. And what's really great is each of you will be essentially publishing your final product as a story map. And the one we're looking at is Local Access to Information in Ghana, which was the winner of the last year's UN Datathon. So within ArcGIS story maps, we're able to bring in different media so we can understand or we can help the audience understand the problem we're trying to solve. We can use images and text layers. We can also go down and bring in our maps that we're publishing, as well as dashboards and other platforms as well. So in this case, this is an ArcGIS dashboard, which is another application that will be available to you to utilize. So we can see this being embedded into the story map, and you can interact with it, and you can click around and move things around. So again, it's just a really great and creative way to take the work and be able to tell the background story, as well as highlight the important steps that you took to doing your analysis. So again, this is what each of you will be submitting your final project as in ArcGIS story maps. But how do we actually add content to a story map? So when you start off, each of you will be starting off with a blank story map such as this. And how you actually add content to story maps is you'll see this plus button. So when you click on this plus button, it'll give you options to various basic font types as well as media. So if I want to add a text, I can click on text and start writing a story in here, or provide context to maybe a picture or a graph I'm putting in. Or let's say I want to bring in media. So we're working with maps and we published a few that we worked on. So back to the multidimensional poverty index we brought in earlier in Practice Online, I can actually bring this over and input this in ArcGIS story map. I can also enable different layers, see if turn on different permissions. So let's say I want the audience to be able to search for their location, turn on the legend, whatever you think would best help the audience understand these elements that you're publishing to ArcGIS story maps. And then I can save it once I put in my different permission. So now I can see my text and my map that I published earlier. And then again, you're not limited to just inputting maps. You can bring in other things such as audio, images, even links to external resources. So again, this is a really great way for you to be able to tell tell all of your work and analysis that you did in a comprehensive story to help your audience connect to the work you have done during the Datathon. So this is pretty much the work that you're going to be doing with the UN Datathon. Some of the important resources you should consider when working in your groups. Again, hopping back to ArcGIS Online, I know today we covered Map Viewer, how to bring in data, as well as how to publish data into story maps. But you're not limited to just that. You also have access to other applications as well. So whether it's Map Viewer or Story Map that I showed, you'll be accessing everything in your app launcher, which is again located next to your username up at the top. And you'll also have access to things such as dashboards and other elements and systems within ArcGIS as well. So that is an overview of the UN Datathon, what to expect. Some other things I wanted to point you guys to keep in mind is I heard that you guys will be having different webinars throughout the week and as the UN Datathon itself is approaching. So you'll also have access to a wiki page, which will be live tomorrow in the webinar. So make sure you attend that. So in that webinar, you'll have access to some of the information I covered, as well as other external resources from AWS and other important resources as well. So make sure you attend that webinar and get access to those resources. And again, with ArcGIS Online itself, you'll have access to this at the end of the week as viewers. So you'll be able to go in there and look at some of these things I covered yourself. And then as the Datathon is approaching, you'll then be given access to a creator. So then you'll be able to access everything and create content, bring your own data, publish it, and do your analysis. So at this time, I will turn it back to all of you to see if you have any questions or if there's anything I can elaborate.
Hi, Ash. Thanks so much for that. If anyone has any questions, you can put them in the chat. We've been trying to go through them. You can also raise your hand and we'll allow you to unmute yourselves. and ask live if you prefer that way. Yash, we did have one question that all the products that we create, this is from Diego Rueda, all products that we create will remain public or will they just exist during the event?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and let me actually cover that. So once you go back into your content, you'll have the opportunity to actually share it, either to yourself, to your organization, or to everyone. So this is where you'll get to determine. So let's say some things you don't want to share to the public, you can certainly share it to your organization, or you can keep it private to yourself. So this is where you would do that. And for the story map, since you guys will be submitting it publicly, or you will be submitting it to, I guess those who will be viewing it, make sure you publish everything publicly so that way they won't have any interruption in viewing that content. Does that answer that question?
I think so. But so they're at the end of the datathon, the stuff they create will not be deleted or it'll still be persistent, right? Is that correct?
Yes, those to be persistent as long as they have access to it. But I'll double check with Kate because it shouldn't be deleted.
Okay, great. Do you have access to the chat, Yash? Or
Oh, yes, I do. I see it
okay,
right here.
there are questions coming in.
Yeah, so I know Mauricio just sent a question. Are you going to give us user and password to access ArcGIS Online? So great question. You'll have access to this by the end of the week. And Kate will add all of you guys to it. So keep an eye out to your email. I believe that's how you'll have access to it. So once you have access to ArcGIS Online, you'll get an email notification, and that's while you'll go in and set up your username and password. So after that, you'll have access to it and you'll be able to log in and log off at any time. Another question is, will we have something similar to a rubric to make sure we're covering all of the criteria of this competition?
I can
Yes.
answer that, yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yep. Yes, we will. We on the documentation wiki that will go live tomorrow with the webinar. We'll have a basic rubric, the judging criteria, so you can check what to make sure you have everything. There's a question a couple lines up from Diego Rueda. Yash, if you wanna.
Yeah, so he asked, how do we connect ArcGIS Online and Story Maps with AWS cloud products? Would that be via static links, embeddings, APIs? So I can sort of answer this question, but you'll be able to embed that content. And I believe the wiki link will go over a little bit more of the directions of how to do that. I'm not too familiar with how to do those linkings, but you can. It's just I'm not familiar with how to do it with AWS Cloud. But again, keep an eye out for the wiki page that's going to go live tomorrow. We'll cover some of that direction in that as well. Um, More questions on how to access ArcGIS Online.
And Yash, I think you covered this question already, but it's possible to embed one of the ArcGIS maps in an external product, right? I think
Yes,
you
you can
just
do
said.
that.
Yep. Okay.
Is there anything else I'm missing here?
Nothing in the past, so anything that just comes in will be new.
Oh,
From Esteban, we have a question, and from Ahmed.
okay. Just to confirm, should our projects be based on data from Medellin, Colombia, and related specifically to the tourism sector? Um, so again, you guys will have an opportunity to look at the rubric. So I'm hoping you, and correct me if I'm wrong, it should cover the areas you're going to look at. But for what I've been told, it's going to be around the area of Colombia. So use your best judgment and where to kind of focus your analysis on. But that's what I've been told so far. But again, double check the rubric to fully understand the scope of your analysis. And how does this tool interact with the AWS tools? Again, for Esteban, it'll the connection and everything will be explained a little bit more on the wiki page. I'm not a big expert on the AWS tools, so it'll be covered in the wiki link. Any other questions I can answer while I'm here?
I just wanted to jump in quick and say that Esri will be holding another office hours next week. AWS will also be having one this week and a couple more after that. So once the documentation wiki goes live tomorrow, please take a look at it, and then you can. These office hours are specifically for you guys to educate you and also for you guys to ask questions. So once you have a better idea of what's available, what resources are available, you can please join us for those, and you can ask your questions then as well.
Another question here is it mandatory to use the geospatial data in geographic applications? Uh, and all the project has to be connected with the different tools provided by the group. So do you mean like, are you saying that you can only use tools that are given to you within ArcGIS Online? Is that if I'm understanding the question correctly? If so, like whatever you have access to, you'll be able to use all of it. So and then also I know that you guys will also have that AWS connection. So again, whatever you have access to, you'll be able to use fully all of it. You're not limited to just using one of the tools. You can use all of them, or let's say as you're utilizing some of these tools, you have a preference for something over another. You can determine that whatever you're comfortable with. And what is the channel you will send this documentation? We can send you a follow-up. I'll work with Leo on some of the PowerPoint as well as some of the other content I showed today in a follow-up email. And then again, going back to the wiki page that will be live tomorrow, some of the things I covered here from ArcGIS Online will also be covered in the wiki link as well as other things coming from AWS and the overall expectations for this datathon as well.
Can I make one comment just to help? So one thing I wanted to point out is that you have access to a lot of different services, but my understanding is there's no particular requirement. I think one of the questions was, is it mandatory to use the geospatial data and all the project has to be connected with the different tools? That's not mandatory, in my understanding. Clarence, correct me if I'm wrong. We're not requiring a particular set of tools. We're offering these tools to the extent that they empower you to create very compelling analyses, and you're in all likelihood you'll be benefited if you do use them. But if you have innovative approaches at doing this without using these things, that's also fine.
Thank you, Sean. And someone put in a question of we already have an address for the in-person event. Is
I'll
that
answer that,
something?
Yash. Yep,
Yeah.
I'll take care of that.
Okay. Sounds good. And someone just put in, could you kind of confirm the access period? We informed that the username and password would be sent via email. Is that correct? Yeah. So once you so Kate has access to all your emails. So she'll give you access to that. So keep an eye out. By the end of this week, you'll get an email notification saying someone has sent an invitation to the org. So then you'll go in, set up your email and password. So it will be sent your emails. So again, just keep an eye out for your emails and make sure you set that up by the end of this week once you have access to it. Any other questions?
I just wanted to add along with what Yash said. Once you receive those login details, please try to log in so that if you're having issues or you can't, you can join the Esri office hours next week, and then we can help you resolve those issues. Thanks.
Yeah, and again to reiterate what Leo said, yeah, just make sure you log in, save your password to your computer or write it down. And again, there will be a follow-up to this in the next week where we'll be able to shoot and troubleshoot any issues you guys have and making sure all of you guys have access to it and you see everything that you're supposed to in terms of the tools, the applications and so on and so forth. So you'll also be able to ask any questions during that session as well. Any other questions? All right. If there aren't any other questions, we can go ahead and end a little early. Um, Again, thank you all for joining us. We'll have a follow-up next week where we'll answer any other questions that you have in terms of accessing it, making sure that you're all ready to do your UN Datathon. Again, it's going to be super fun. You'll have access to everything that you need to ensure you'll have a successful Datathon. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing all the creative stuff you guys come up with. And that being said, I also work with Leo to send out some of the material and resources I showed today in a follow-up email as well as a PowerPoint. Again, thank you all for joining us. And that being said, I hope all you guys have a great day.
Yep. Thank you, Yash, and thank you, Esri, for doing this for us and for being our partner in the Datathon. I just want to remind everybody that tomorrow is a very important webinar on data sources for the Datathon, so I recommend that everyone join that. You should already have the connection details, the way you receive these connection details. For next week's Esri office hours, you will also be receiving the connection details by email. And there was a question. The recording of this meeting should go live on the website later today. And it will also be available on the wiki that will go live tomorrow. Thank you very much. Yes, this webinar is recorded and it'll go live. Tomorrow's webinar will also be recorded and will be on the website. Thanks again, Yash.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks so much. See you guys.